You're listening to 101 with Tommie Zam. On the 50th episode, we sit down with Scott Stanton talking about skateboarding and life. Let's do this. Hey, what's up, Scott?
Hey.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. How's the weather out there?
It's kind of cool for here. Yeah. Kind of cold, yeah, but it's nice. It's like out there, sort of.
Oh, it's raining right now.
Dang, man. How about that?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of rainy weather out here, and it's just been horrible, you know?
Yeah. You're suffering the rain.
Oh, I know, right?
Lord.
So how's everything going, man? What's been going on with you?
Just staying busy painting, and that's about it. And living, yeah.
Okay. And where do you live now?
Savannah, Georgia. Yeah.
Man, how you like it?
I like it. It's cool. Yeah. It's a good place.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
And, so let's talk a little bit about your skateboard history.
Okay. if I can remember it. Yeah.
So you grew up in Pensacola, Florida, correct?
Yes. Started out in Jacksonville when I was born in DC, and then that year we moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and lived there for about 10 years, and then we moved to Pensacola. So that's where it all kind of started. Pensacola. Yeah.
Okay, and that's when you picked up your first board and everything, or was it in Jacksonville? Or
I skated in Jacksonville a little. Yeah. I can't really remember when I first started skating. I feel like it's like when I first started walking, pretty much, because older brothers had boards, so I just rode always. I got lucky. Yeah.
And then you had what, 2 older brothers or one?
No, I had I have one older brother that skated, but then I have 3 brothers and a sister.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah.
All right. And do you remember your first skateboard that you actually had?
The first one I would probably that I felt like was mine is there was a guy in the neighborhood who had a Logan Earthski old board, and it just sat in his garage, like carport. And I remember seeing it, and I talked to him. He's like, "Hey, I have a newspaper route, and if you take over my newspaper route, I'll give you that skateboard." So that's how I got that.
Oh, wow. And that's in Pensacola?
Yeah, it was in Pensacola. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty rad, dude. I
mean, but that was my first board. Like mine, I rode my brother's board a few times. I think that was a GNS Stacy Peralta. So that I kind of like started out on the Cadillac, but then when I got my own, that one board I got was not very good, but it made me learn like who I am. Yeah.
That's rad, dude. And
yeah.
I mean, the GNS Stacy Peralta, I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was a Cadillac for sure, because I think it had little trackers, and then the green Kryptonic wheels, and just smooth skateboard. But
and that's when you started, like, when you're like got more into skateboarding, more you're like, I'm gonna try to do something out of this.
Yeah, I never really thought that way. I mean, I'm just gonna this is I don't know. It was just, my heart was like, this is it. I like skateboarding. So I was like, I just want to keep skateboarding. And that's what I did. And then, then got like another board and got a bigger board. And I think the next board I got, which, I think it was one Interlight. It was some Sure Grip board or something. And it looked good, but then it was really pretty terrible. So.
Yeah. And did you mostly skate street, or did you have like backyard ramps, or how'd you like start riding boards? Like
mostly curbs, and you remember I don't know if curbs were in your neighborhood over there, but like we had those little slants. They were just perfect. Like
the little curb cuts,
like not straight like slappy curbs, but like they had little transitions almost. So it was like these little mini ditches, and then the sidewalk right next to it. So that was like a platform. So I just acted like I was surfing on those things. So so that was it. And then great thing is my brother built a ramp in our backyard, so I kind of grew up with that, a ramp in the backyard. So, and they wouldn't let me go. I was the little kid, so they didn't want me around. But when they weren't there, I'd go skate. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
They
So,
didn't want you around because they were afraid that you might show them up, huh?
well, that ended up happening. Yes, yeah, yeah. And I guess with that determination, I was like, I'll show you. Yeah, so, yeah.
And so that's when you started, like, because when did YCA started a vert ramp? That was like what, 80s, early 80s or something?
Well, that was much later, sort of. That was after, I mean, that probably happened around 88, maybe 87.
Okay.
Because, yeah, and that was just a lot of hard work on our end of like talking them into this crazy idea that they're like, hell no. But, before that, it's just nuts. We built ramps in like public park, like that park near your house that had like a baseball field and this and that. Every neighborhood kind of had one of those and some swings. I mean, we built a ramp right on that property without asking anybody or looking into it, and it lasted for a while. But just so we did stuff like that. That was it.
Yeah. And that's pretty
Nobody's
rad.
going to give you permission. Yeah. So
Because you got to think about it. Back in the day, what, in the 80s, and they didn't really care about skateboarding. You know what I mean? It was just like whatever.
they didn't just not care. They pretty much detested it. Yeah. It was not. It was not a joyful thing to be a skateboarder in that society. Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. Because we're always, especially in Pensacola, it was, in Pensacola, I feel in the 80s to the early 2000s, skateboarding, surfing, and music was so huge there that it was just so popular. And now you go back, it's just not the same anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I would I would also say it seems so hugely popular, that, like to the extent of I don't that word could have different meanings. Like it was popular in our little subculture,
Yeah.
but now it's popular in the subculture I don't really care for. Like it's so popular.
Yeah, it is. It
As
definitely
in,
is.
yeah, it's because somebody comes along that's not in our subculture and knows they can make a lot of money off of that stuff, and then it becomes real popular, and then I feel like we've just lost it. It's not really something I'm interested in anymore. Of course,
Yeah.
I'll skate, but I'm not. It could go on and on about that. Yeah.
Oh, we go on and on about that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's yeah.
But we'll go back a little bit. So when did you get sponsored by Interlight, or you sponsored by like Hudson, or what?
No, I wasn't. When I got on some shop team. It was a No Limits, and that was out in Cantonment,
Okay.
which those guys were great. I didn't care too much for Interlight or all those. It was like I don't know. You almost could sniff them out long ago. It was all about money, sort of, and not really
Yeah.
helping people. Now I did. I never rode for Hudson, but of course Janet, that woman was amazing. She just did so much for us, and you could tell her heart was in it. Not for the business, but just to like she loves skateboarding and skaters, and so
And she
she
still does it, and she's still doing it.
yeah, right. So we she was cool. She got the ramp from there was a really big contest in Alabama under a hangar that was that big vert ramp, but she got that after that contest happened and then brought it to Pensacola, and that
Oh,
was just
really?
that was a game changer for a lot of us
Really?
skaters. Like yeah, so that was on the west side for a while, so we try to find rides out there, but then that's the one that eventually got moved to the YMCA
Okay.
near our house. Yeah.
That was the big metal one, right?
Well, the metal came later. Yeah, but the first one was some masonite ramp that it was about 24 feet wide, but it was the one in that contest. But then we built a metal one later. Yeah, once they let us have that spot. Yeah.
That's rad. And so she brought that over from Alabama, and then that's what started you skating more, big old mini ramps and stuff like that, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was really traveling a lot because it's so interesting. Then it was like between, I'd say, Gainesville, Florida on the East Coast to like Ocean Springs, Mississippi, on to Houston, Texas. Like you kind of knew where every skate spot, like ramp was, because there
Hmm.
wasn't very many. So I'd try to hitch rides or do whatever I could, and that was during high school to get to whatever ramp. But so when that ramp came to Pensacola, that I was able to skate a lot more and just skate every day and get better and better. Um,
And
so
and do you remember when your first time you dropped into a mini ramp or a vert ramp?
yes, I do, and that was a huge game changer because it was like I think early middle school, maybe elementary. Like I just go to this ramp and like today's the day. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And I was always scared, but once I kind of went past that, like it was like okay, then things just got bigger and better. Then I remember learning rock and rolls, and then I was like, man, I'm badass. Like this is like the magazines. So but that was I think middle school around then. Yeah.
Were you nervous? Were you like scared? Like were you like, oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like I
See,
said, I mean, I'd go. I think I just daydream in school all day about going to the ramp and doing that, and then I'd get there and I'd just sit there and wouldn't do it. And then the next day, and the next day, and the next day, probably turned into months. Finally, did it, and that was it.
the
Yeah,
rest is history, right?
yeah, I'd say, and that was. It's like I tell people learning to skate now, like it's like the hardest part is what you're doing right now. Once you kind of learn to do something, the rest is pretty easy. Just keep trying.
Yeah, definitely it is. I mean, it definitely is. I remember Myrtle Grove, Ron Long, had me drop in on a mini ramp at Myrtle Grove, and he's like, "Look, man, if you drop in, I'll buy you a Dr. Pepper."
Nice. Yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, I dropped in, and he bought me that Dr. Pepper.
That's it. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember doing that with people. It was when I was sponsored and had a lot of stuff. I was like, you do it and I'll give you a board or something, and that was cool. Yeah.
yeah. And so that's rad that you got that. So you traveled around in like high school to all these different ramps. So is that where you started getting more notice and stuff like that when you start traveling around to these different ramps?
Yeah, I guess so. It just was so different, sort of. I mean, there was, we all just kind of knew each other. And I really think what was so cool back then, it was like, it really didn't matter how good you were or how not good you were. It was like we were all just skaters, like stoked on each other.
Hmm.
And so we were all noticing each other, and everybody brought something to the plate, whether it was like you might be a really good skater, but then there might be the other guy who's not that good, but then he like brings some cool music to the table, and then this and that. It was always like, so we were all noticing each other. But I guess I went to a few contests, and then you start doing good there, and then I guess the word gets out. Yeah. So
And so, what kind of did you skate to, like the NSAA and stuff like that, or what?
yeah, I did do the NSA contests later, and I think yeah, I went to one in Houston. Somehow I ended up in Houston with just on a skate trip and then entered this contest. And I really had no idea what the hell that was, NSA. And then I did good. And then they sent me some information like, now you've got the top whatever 5, so you can go to this place. So I was like, man, I got to go skate there. Like, I, I remember getting out of school at Washington High School to go take some trips. And so that's where I guess started getting noticed by like companies and this and that. So it was like, wow, I didn't really know this stuff exists. So this is cool. They're gonna.
And did you skate against like Tony Hawk or Cookie Head Jenkins and all those guys, or
Well, later, I skated against Tony and everybody when I was pro. Um,
how was
yeah,
that?
crazy as all get out. Like what the hell? That's it. I mean, my first contest was in Michigan pro, but then the second one was at the Vans warehouse in Orange County, which was when Vans was not what they are now.
Yeah.
And there was a ramp there. And that was a huge pro NSA, kind of like every pro with there. And that's when I first went against Tony Hawk. But the crazy thing is, it's just so different now. That contest was not open to the public. It was just for the skaters. Like, I think that's very interesting and telling of like, now vans would never do that now. I don't know how things, it just seems like everything's about money or making a huge event of it or
Yeah,
whatever.
it definitely is. I mean, it's I mean, yeah, it's still it's open to the public, or you got to buy tickets to go watch the contest, and it's a moneymaker now.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
So that was really interesting and cool. But yeah, I do remember being on the platform and thinking, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is crazy. Like, I just flew from Pensacola to Hawaii, and me and Arthur might be skating, and that's about it. We're just nobody there. Next thing, I'm on the platform with all these guys. But
So, were you nervous? I mean, knowing that you'd be skating against like some of the Bones Brigade guys and stuff like that, and
yeah,
all the top pro vert skaters that you grew up watching in magazines and stuff.
yeah, definitely. But they were, they were all so cool, and it was just that skateboard brotherhood of like, it was almost, there was no different than like going to Mississippi and skating against their crew. It was like they just kind of, well, I'd say I got Atlanta. I went up there a few times, and they were called the Rancheros. They own this ramp, and those dudes were ruthless. Like it was like going to the military. They would just heckle you and make you really tough. So when I go out to the West Coast, it was like these people were like Mickey Mouse people. Like it was it was almost like the Mouseketeers. Like, hi, how you doing? But those Atlanta folks, man, they definitely made my skin thick. Yeah. But
The West Coast is like that. I mean, it's very friendly, they're very nice, they're very open, and the South is very thick.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was great, but I wasn't any more nervous at that contest than I am, I guess, at any. I mean, contest can be nervous, just like if you're really, I don't know, wasn't kind of my thing. But
Oh, social contest was your thing? This is more just like skating with the homies at YMCA and just having fun and stuff.
yeah, that was it.
That's cool. And then when did you start getting sponsored? I mean, because you guys hooked up with Zorlak, right? That was your first sponsor. Sports.
Yeah. I think Thunder Trucks might have been my first one, and that was like some shop sponsor.
Okay.
But then it happened to be that contest in Alabama. That was a huge contest. It didn't. I think it was on the cover of Thrasher, and I mean it was one of the big contests. But I skated that as just an amateur, like wasn't even sponsored. Probably really had no business even skating in it, but it was like, there's a contest near me, I'm going to enter. But that's when I got on Zorlak. Yeah.
So how did they call you, or did they come up to you and say, hey, you want to ride for Zorlak, or did they like send you a box automatically, say you're on Zorlak now?
I can't really quite remember. I think there was a guy from Mississippi who went out to Texas at Zorlak, and he kind of was like a co-owner, but he did all the work, and so I think he's the one that was like, hey, we need to flow this guy some stuff, and that's how it happened. And and I just kind of stuck with that. Was Zorlak when they were in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Then a couple years later they sold to some California company, and a lot of people quit then, and I just stuck with them and went to the California company too. And that's when they put my board out and just started sending me all over the place to skate, and I was their little robot wearing their stuff. Yeah. So, yeah.
and that's rad. I mean, because I mean, you coming out of Pensacola, I mean, that's because you're actually that I know of the first pro skater that came out of Pensacola. Then Markovich came out of Golf Breeze right a little after you. You know what I mean? So you kind of put skateboarding on the map for Pensacola. So I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I worked pretty hard at that too, and I remember Zorlak was having a video, and then Going Trucks also had a video. But they were like, "Come out to California and do your part." And I was like, "No, y'all come out here." I was pretty hardcore on like, why does everybody have to go to California? And at the time, it was like there really wasn't a whole lot to skate. I mean, as far as like ramps and this and that, was like, we got a lot of stuff out. But anyway, I got them to fly out to Pensacola, and I think that that they were able to see a lot of, man, there's some great skaters here, and it was a big scene. So that kind of helped, and that was kind of my intentions of like, come out to our scene. But
Yeah, because you had a lot of people come out. You know, you had like, I think you had like, I know I can't remember all the names, but I know a lot of big name vert skaters came to skate the vert ramp at the YMCA.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because of you. You know, and you raised Arthur in the skateboarding. That's amazing.
Yes, man. Yeah, Arthur Adams. We gotta shout out to him.
Yeah, definitely got shout out to Adams, man. I mean, you know, it was him that you raised him, and then Arthur. I remember Arthur coming to me and giving me a board
Yeah,
that someone left at the YMCA and got me into it. So it kind of, you know, trickled down to this, you know, to me where I'm at right now because of you and because of Arthur, you know.
yeah, yeah. It's all connected. We're all connected, and it's all reverberations of like, this is why this happens, and but yeah, and you know, and I I was never quite aware of like this. I remember long ago, like hearing about Chris Markovich and like this whole like street skating thing, and then this vert skating thing, and like that there's this separation. And I never thought of any looked at the world that way because I mean we skate vert during the day and then go street skate at night. And but there was like this. I remember the newspaper there did a little story on me, and I was really against that. Like I didn't want to, but they finally tracked me down. But then this whole story came out, and it was like the rivalry between vert and skate, and I was like, what? Like, this is some stupid ass shit. But
Actually, I remember that article too. I think I read that article.
it was exactly what I would figure to be. It's like, man, this is just stupid. But I don't know, man. It seems like from some other shit I read later on, it was like Markovich and a lot of that was real beef to them. So I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna be skating. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about this shit. Yeah,
Yeah. Now there was all. I mean, there was that little separation, you know, vert skaters and street skaters, and you know,
yeah,
I mean, me, I supported all. I didn't really care. You know, I go sit at the vert YMCA with I'll go with Arthur and go sit and watch you guys shred. You know, you doing these
uh-huh.
big old fat lean airs, and you
Yeah,
know, and Arthur come home and show me, he's like, look what Scott did. Look what I learned today. You know, we're
yeah,
watching on the VHS tape and stuff.
yeah.
While Arthur's dad's filming on the big old VHS camera.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I bring back the
I
memories, huh?
yes.
So you got into vert. So what was it like skating vert? I mean, because that metal ramp was like what, 10 feet or something like that, 12.
Yeah, I think it was bigger than that. It was probably 11 and a half. And yeah, and to have metal back then, especially in our weather of like, because like I said, we had those masonite ramps before, and
Mm-hmm.
all the rain and all, it just basically was like a piece of shit, you know, just like you couldn't, it was all bubbled up and cracked. And that was what I could use to my benefit because the ramp was so terrible. Like, so whenever I'd go to these other contests, I was like, it was like, it was like the difference between clay wheels and urethane, you know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'd be going fast. And I remember several people coming to skate that crappy, the ramp before we made the metal. And it was like big time pros and they couldn't even skate it because it was like a dirt road to them or something.
So
Um,
who? Sorry, Ron Chief. So who was some of the big time pros that came? Do you remember? Pensacola.
uh, I remember Gator one was a big one. He came
Yeah.
and I think he skated a little bit and then took his pads off and quit. Yeah, which I could understand. Yeah. But then the metal ramp, yeah, that was a good ramp, and just getting that metal was a big difference. But of course, we paid for it. Like, came up with all the money to get it, and
Well, y'all did a fundraiser for it or what?
no, that was kind of even before that. There wasn't. The fundraiser was like a few anonymous people giving us some money and helping out a lot. You know, like my mom being one of them, and she we didn't have a whole lot of money, but she came across some money, and she put into the skating, and that was super cool. But yeah,
That's rad, dude. I mean, that's rad to have parents like support you in what you love to do, skateboarding, you know?
Yes, yeah. And that was not the case back then. I mean, it was very, like I started out saying, and you know, it's like skateboarding was something people looked down on. And so,
Especially in Pensacola.
yes, especially in Pensacola, you know.
Especially, and they still do.
Yeah, right.
They still
Well,
do.
yeah, I don't know. I guess the rednecks are still there. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are. And the
but
politics.
now but now most of those rednecks are skateboarders too. Like that's the whole. Uh, it's just a stupid world. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember I remember being back home not long ago in that area in a parking lot in this huge ass truck, which I still have trauma of trucks, just like because it's just they're the ones that want to kick your ass and blah blah. But it was one of those trucks, and it had a huge Thrasher sticker on the back, and then of course 2 big Trump stickers on the bottom. I'm like, yep, that's the world we live in.
yeah. Hey, I do remember those. Yeah, I mean, I do have trauma on those big trucks when I go back to Pensacola when I was there taking care of my personal stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, every time I skated the parking lots, I always see these big trucks, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm gonna get harassed by some redneck. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll never. I guess just like the spirit of skateboarding, it that you're a skateboarder, that'll never leave you, and that trauma will never leave. I guess because I still do get it. It's like that. It's the sound of the diesel truck, and I hear it. I'm like, I start looking. I don't know if this was your story, but it's like, man, I'm skating home from a spot, and I kind of like know my back trails in the woods, how to escape the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and that shit happened almost daily, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's what's crazy is a lot of people don't realize that. Like, you know, our generation of skating, you know, in the South, you know, in the Bible Belt of America, basically, you know,
Yeah.
it's a whole different world. You know, we had to dodge and deal with rednecks and deal with cops and redneck
Uh-huh.
cops are even worse. You know, so I
Right.
mean.
Yeah.
And especially because even punk was huge in Pensacola too, because of Night
Yeah.
Owl and stuff like that, and we had to deal
Yeah.
with being skaters and being going to punk shows. We had to deal with the rednecks coming up Night Owl to fight us.
Right. Yep. No
So
doubt.
it's people don't understand that. It's like, dude, it's different in the South. It's not like the West Coast, the East Coast, or the
Yeah.
middle,
Uh-huh.
and stuff.
Well,
So
I would say, I mean, from my traveling and knowing, like it was pretty much sucked almost everywhere, but our area of Pensacola and that the Panhandle and that was a whole nother ball game
yeah,
of fucked up shit. Yeah,
yeah,
those
because they
people
want.
were ruthless. Yeah,
Yeah, they didn't want us skateboarders. They want us to be. They want us to be the puppet of they want us to
yeah.
be.
Well, it's just it's like it was accepted, like for us just to have our asses kicked and then try to call the police would come and then they almost act like, well, you asked for this because of what you're doing. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's some things have changed for the better, some for the worse, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, since I went back there, when I was back there, taking care of personal stuff, I just kind of like, wow, it's not to me, it's not the same. Because why I say it's not the same to me is because I guess been living out here in San Diego for a long time, being used to the skate scene out here, and then going back and expecting to have a really solid skate scene out there was just kind of like, to me, it was just nothing really. It's like, wow, where's everybody skateboarding at? Nobody's skating on the streets. You know what I mean? I couldn't find any
Yeah.
skateboarders. You know,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
tough. It was tough for me because I'm so used to being around skaters and skating on the streets and this and
Uh-huh.
that. Different.
Yeah. Well, that's something I think about a lot. It's weird, and I wonder, is it because of the culture? So it's so accepted now, and everybody kind of accepts it. Like you have to have a skate park to skate in, and not like skate like we used to just do. I mean, everything was a skate park. A
Yeah.
curb, like every like what we used to call them, those little mall, like outdoor mall, like everything was a skate park. We skated anything, but now it's you don't. Yeah, I don't see that in Savannah, and it kind of trips me out. It's like, where are the skaters? And they're usually at the skate park that's designed for skateboarding.
Yeah, well, not here.
Yeah, yeah,
Here we're on the streets and skate parks.
yeah. Well, cool, good.
Yeah, so I mean, because then I went out. I went out Sunday with a couple of the homies, and we're out skating, doing slappies, slappy Sundays, and skating around, and
Yeah,
it was cool because you have a group of people over on one side, and then the other side was like the double side group, and people were skating that side, and then another group was skating another side. But we're all friends. We all say what's up, and pound, give pounds, what's up, skate with each
yeah.
other. But it
Uh-huh.
was just cool to see that. But to go back to Pensacola, what it used to be like, because Pensacola skate scene used to be like that. You go to the YMCA Vert, watch you
Uh-huh.
guys skate, and then we go skate street, and then
Yeah,
it's just different now.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I wondered. Like, you can find old friends to go do it and meet, but I don't know. I guess it's a new
I think
generation, and it's not as they don't. I guess it would be like the generations before I really skated, and it was kind of coming up. Like, they went and found pools and skated those pools, and you know, they could say the same thing. I guess, like, you can't find anybody now going and swim, jumping neighborhood fences and swimming or skating the pool. So,
right. I remember
yeah,
those.
right, yeah,
You look on the map and say, okay, what pool is empty right there? There's a pool right there. There's a pool right there.
uh-huh. we have,
And, and
we have,
and go back a little bit. So Zorlak. So definitely. So you went on tour with Zorlak. You done a lot of stuff with Zorlak. So, I mean, I remember your first pro board, and I was with the clown skeleton, right?
yeah, yeah.
So how'd you come up with that design? Was it Pusshead that did that, or did you come to Zorlak and say, hey, I want this design?
Well, I had said something about wanting a clown, but yeah, Pusshead was the artist at the time that did all the graphics, which was pretty amazing that I was going to have this guy doing my graphics. And so that was really cool. But then there was the clown ramp in Texas. And then my grandpa made me a painting a long time ago about a clown. So I've always kind of been drawn to that. So I just said, hey, I'd like a clown. And then he just came up with that. Yeah.
That's that's the thing that always sticks in my head whenever I think of you, man, is that your first pro board. And I remember Arthur gave me one, and I was like, whoa, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
mean, that was a dope board. And then, so do you remember some of the tours you went on to with Zorlax? So like,
Oh yeah. Well, there were tons of them. Most of them were just like the long European tours, and then there were lots of contests over there we just go to. Um, yeah, I just remember it's a lot like people ask me about what was it like over in Europe. I was like, I don't really know. I just remember the skate spots, which kind of unfortunate. I didn't take in all the travel, but I knew the spots. But I just couldn't that somebody's going to pay for me to go travel around the world and skateboard.
right? I mean, think
And
about it. You're coming from Pensacola, Florida. You know what I mean? Like, the
yeah,
first pro out of Pensacola, and you ride for a big company, and all of a sudden now hey, you're going on tour, and you're like, what? Europe? I've never
yeah,
been to Europe.
it was definitely what I remember. Through high school and not being a good student, I was like, man, I gotta do something, and I think this is all I got. So I'm gonna make sure to get the hell out of here and do what I can with my skateboard. Yeah.
Well,
So
you did, man, and you definitely did. You put a huge impact in the Pensacola skate scene and the skate world too. I mean, a lot of people, know who Scott Stanton is. Still to this day, the old guys, older skaters know who you are and have a lot of respect for you.
yeah, yeah, I found that too, and it is awesome. But it's that whole skateboard brotherhood is strong. Yeah.
And do you remember your first trip, like your first European trip, like your actual, like when they were like, hey, we're going to Germany, you ready to go? Like, do you remember that experience?
Yeah, yeah. It was right after that. It was after that Vans contest I was talking about
Uh-huh.
in L.A. And then got home to Pensacola and was like, it was all like, it was, and it was the beginning of the business side of skateboarding. It was like, whoa, this is different. Like, they had all these like press releases and these things and this and that. And of course, it was exciting to me at first, and it remained exciting for a little while. Then it was like, oh shit, what that ends up turning into is like, you kind of ruined skateboarding for me. Sort of like, because it was just like business,
Yeah.
and the joy of it is kind of not there. But to your question, I do remember the first European tour, and it was incredible. I mean, it's a trip. Think about that. It was like before cell phones and all that. They're like, okay, here's a ticket, and you fly to here, and somebody's gonna be there to get you, and you're just like, okay. But that's what skateboarding was like. Now that just sounds crazy to me, but that's it. I had no fear that somebody was going to be there, and I'm going to meet people just like me that are going to skateboard, stay at their house and that kind of stuff. So there was a
Yeah.
lot of that. And
And were your parents like stoked? They're like, oh my God, you're going to Europe? Well,
I,
bring us this stuff back.
I don't know. It's weird. And that's a whole nother crazy thing of like, it was just so weird and different. Like it wasn't even on anybody's radar of what, to me, like what a professional skateboarder was, or this, like they didn't even know to be stoked. It was kind of like, because I think about that a lot. Like I like, I think it's like I was a professional athlete, quote unquote, and nobody in my family or anybody ever came to one of my games. Versus the way things are now, it's so huge, and everybody's like, it's a sport. But we didn't really want anybody to come to our games or be excited, because that wasn't what it was about. It was just about going and skating with your friends, or a crew. Um, so no, I don't know how stoked they were. I do know my mom was pretty excited. I remember we had walked down to the bay by the house one day, and that was a great experience to go walk with my mom. And then we came back, and there was a box waiting, and it was the first shipment of my boards.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her seeing those and was like, "Whoa, wow, this is real." Yeah. So, and
she made sure she kept one for herself so that way she could frame it,
right? Wish we did. Yeah. I don't know how much you remember me, but from what I remember from Pensacola is I had this room, and then I had this big closet, and I had most of my skateboards and like tons of stuff in there, like all the stuff loaded. But word got out, and so a lot of people from Pensacola skaters, they did this, especially when I was out of town. They'd come over to my house and tell my mom's like, Scott said I could come in and get a board. So there were people there daily coming in, like, yeah. I finally was like, I was cool with it, and I was like, no, man, because then there were some people just straight up abusing it, like, oh, and people I don't really like. I was like, man, what the hell?
No,
So yeah,
that's wrong to do, man.
yeah, I know exactly, but that was it. Oh, God
Yeah.
bless him, I guess. Yeah, but most of all, I was really cool about hooking. I was like, hell yeah, go get a board. Yeah, but
Yeah, because you're always as I always remember you as always the friendly, nice, you know, skater. The good person that was always like, you need a shirt. Here's a shirt. You know what I mean? Like you always did good things for people. And that's awesome. You
well,
don't see
good.
that much, and especially in the skateboard world now, you don't see that much.
Yeah, well, great. Well, I'm glad you have that memory, and thank you. And I just remember you as the way it should be, like just a stoked kid, and that's
Yeah, I'm still am.
yeah, exactly. And if you lose that, then there's nothing. It's not a very good world. Yeah.
No, definitely. And in
Yeah.
the day that you decided to, what made you decide to like step down from being pro, like step down from everything and just kind of do you?
Man, I don't know that. I mean, that's real complicated. It's something I think about. Of course, there was no just day. It's probably a gradual moment. But I think skateboarding got really dark and ugly. It seemed like around the early '90s, like,
Hmm.
and and of course, it had a lot to do with like vert kind of dying and street taking over. But it seemed like, man, I don't know any other way to put it, but it was like skateboarders were turning into jocks, sort of like, but like, not that they looked like jocks, but they were acting like jocks, like just assholes. Like
Hmm.
they like to fight, and they like to, like, frat boys and party and just like do stupid shit. And I wasn't into that at all. Like it was like, man, you guys, this is stupid. But then, then that was kind of some of the newer school coming in. But then the older school was like equally fucked up, and then committing crazy crimes and just doing. It was just dark, and clearly, speaking of Gator and all that's like what he did, and so, and I remember it was one of my last contests. It was in Dallas, and Gator came talking to me about something, and I guess he knew I was a good guy and this and that. So, but he wanted to talk to me about how being who I was, basically like straight edge guy that doesn't do partying like they did or whatever, or get girls, or I don't know. But I was kind of going along, but it was just a weird talk. Like I was like, man, and he talked to me about Jesus a lot because I guess he knew I was like, Jesus is cool. But then the more he told me, I was like, man, you've got a really extreme view right now. I don't think this is good. But then to cut it short, it was a couple of days after that talk. That's when I heard he turned himself in. So I'm like, man, I'm talking to this guy that just killed somebody. And I could tell something was really, really wrong. First of all, it was like he had driven out to Dallas, and we used to always drive to contests from like the East Coast people. Like we didn't have any company behind us or money. It's like we just got there. But those guys always flew, and they were doing it first class. But he drove. I even thought that was weird. But apparently that's when he drove through the desert and dropped off that body.
So, oh, wow.
Just fucked up. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's sad, dude.
So yeah, that was really tough. But then not long after that, there was another contest, and I was good friends with Jeff Phillips. And I remember Jeff being real negative. And then and there was a big skateboard contest there. And that was when I first saw Markovich at a contest that I had been used to going to. I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Somebody else from my area. But the street skaters they were dominating. And then the vert had changed a whole lot too, and they've gotten really good. So there was a whole new school. But Jeff Phillips was just mad, and it just was not a very. It was negative, and it was a negative space. And I remember just thinking, I think I'm kind of done with this. Yeah. So I went back to Pensacola and I think I started at PJC and kind of just kept skating, but I was just done with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're doing awesome now. I mean, you got your own artwork. You're doing, I mean, you're doing a lot of good stuff. I mean, I see, I see what you're doing, but that's, I mean, that's sad that like, that's what made you, I mean, not saying anything negative or anything, but that's just sad that that's what made you turn, decide to turn, not be pro anymore, just have that negative around you, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, skateboarding is all about positive, and it's about doing positive things and stuff like that. But having that negative, it kind of like does kind of like, you know what, I don't want to be around this anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people were wanting to create drama that didn't need to be there. So I was like, yeah, it's whatever.
Yeah. And you did the right thing, and what are you doing now? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, what's Scott Stanton's life like?
Well, like I said, I paint, and I'm doing good at it, and I'm keeping it positive. And what I learned from skateboarding and music that I've done and all that is like, the minute the business and all that weirdness comes in, like run away from that, because it's very protective of doing things the way my heart tells me to do it, versus because like the art world's no different than any other world. It's there'll be business people trying to tell you, here's how you should do it, and they kind of want to make money off of you. They don't kind of want to. They want to. That's the goal of people that want to make money, and that's kind of soul sucking to me. I guess I've learned in make money off yourself if you're going to make money, and I think you can. It's versus somebody telling you how. Yeah.
So what got you into so I forgot about you doing music. You just remind me about that. So you got into music. So were you in a band or anything? You were in a band with Wooden Horse, weren't you, or no?
No, that was another Scott from
Okay,
Pensacola,
that
but
was other Scott. Okay.
yeah, but yeah. I mean, clearly music was real important to me, and I think kind of going back to the skateboarding thing. Why did I was like, okay, like I did what I still skateboarded and I still skateboard, but I guess I milked the cow as much as I wanted on that. I was like, there's other shit I want to do, and music was a big thing. And I was in a band before I turned pro, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to playing music, like do that. And I ended up like crossing boundaries in that world that I never ever would have thought of doing. So I got on, ended up become pretty good friends with the guy from Dead Kennedys, and
No way, really?
yeah, and then their label put our music out. So then we just
What was the name of the band?
well, the band was called the Causeway, the first one we did, but that's all irrelevant. It's just little things. But we had a damn good time and got to tour Europe in a band, things like that. So just was a great time. Um, then I was in this other band called Manor Astroman for a while, and we toured around a lot. It's kind of like surf music, and
Yes.
then so that was cool. And then I'd like, okay, I I did what I wanted to do there. And then it was like, okay, I've always kind of wanted to paint. I'm going to try painting. Yeah. I think the next thing I'll do is I've always wanted to do a landscaping business, so I might end up doing a landscaping business sometime.
Dude, that'd be rad.
I know. Yeah. Yep.
In the landscaping business, you could put like, "Hey, you want a mini ramp? I could build you a mini ramp."
Right. Yeah. So,
That's
whatever.
rad.
I'm,
No,
I'm
that's
just
rad.
open. I'm open to new experiences, and I think it's cool that there's so many people who like they've skated their whole life and they do that. But I also think, man, there's other things to try to do. Yeah. Yeah. So,
And back to the music. So, what did you play? Were you a singer, guitar, drummer, bass?
I played the guitar and sang and kind of wrote songs, um, and then our band was more of like an act and a stick, and it kind of it's complicated. It's a long. I don't even know how to explain it, so I don't even try. But
Is it
so
kind of like
so
kind of like Flaming Limp of Violet Films, kind of, or kind of like that kind of music, or is it more like?
it could be. Yeah, it was kind of punk new wave, but but our show was a little different. Like, and it really we so it was called the Causeway, and our live show was kind of as if we were this cult, but we weren't. We said we're not a cult. We were all white, and it was just totally taking on our culture that you and I grew up in the South, that religious culture of like
Mhm.
televangelism. So
Yeah.
we turned that into this rock and roll band, and so we'd go to show like for instance playing the Casbah in San Diego, and then so we'd set up there, and it was like a church service night, and we kind of just heckled and ridiculed everybody there that was sinning or this or that. So it was it was a lot of so basically we took all the abuse that you and I we know we've gotten, and I just used it like, okay, I
Dude,
can.
that's rad.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, um, and had some cool people in the band that helped, and yeah, like we ended up doing pretty good. Yeah.
Can people find it, like the listeners, if they want to listen to it, can they find it on like Spotify or Apple Music, on like would it be pop up on there, do you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. The Causeway. Yeah,
Causeway. Okay. All
and then
right.
my wife, who she was in the band, but and then became my wife, and then her and I did some music together called Pilot Scott Tracy, and on the
Okay.
same label. So that was just fun because we were able to keep recording albums, but we didn't have to tour. And then you might remember you remember Chris Bolin, street
Yeah.
skater?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine, and he was in the band too. So yeah, and
That's
he's an amazing musician, and just a cool guy.
and it goes back to what I said before, like how skateboarding in Pensacola in the 80s and 90s was huge for skateboarding and music, and that's what, because like I said before, it's like, Night Owl was the main venue that had like, oh, there's Face to Face, No Effects, Henry Rollins came there, you know what I mean, and
Uh-huh.
Wooden Horse played there, everybody, local
Yeah.
bands and stuff like that, and it's just rad that to see like how Pensacola has developed so much people in the skateboard industry and the music industry and the surf industry too, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, you being the first pro skater out of Pensacola, then Mark, you still claim Pensacola and this and that, and then, you know, you got Markovich who comes out of Pensacola, but Golf Breeze, you know,
Hmm.
and then the names go on. You know, there's the younger people, and then, you know, musicians. There's so many musicians out of Pensacola that I can't even think of.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's people like me and Ricky Birnbaum who are still in the skate industry and still film, and like I do media and Ricky does filming and this and that, you know, but we still skate. It's just rad to
Yeah.
know that like a lot of skateboarding, music, and surfing came out of Pensacola that not
It
a lot of people know about.
it really is cool, and it's so cool to see you doing what you do, and like Ricky out there, and of course, I take pride in that because I was like, I know I'm a little part of that. Like, and it's just so cool. Um, it's almost like we had to take our trips out west, and we're like, come on, y'all can do this too, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yep. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you and Arthur. That's the honest truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's huge. I get it. Yeah. And that's the
and,
truth. And vice
and
versa. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's why I came out, you know, like whenever they, you know, Pensacola, and this is honest truth. I mean, when Pensacola was trying to get that skate park built, and that guy came to me and asked me to help him, and you know, try to get, you know, the old Pensacola guys involved and this and
Yeah.
that, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. I'm definitely down. I got him on my show,
Uh-huh.
and you know, and I was all into it, and then, you know, politics and money got involved, and I got pushed
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I heard they're gonna name the park, I was like, "What?
Yeah.
What's his name is
Yeah.
Scott Stanton, dude, the first pro skater of Pensacola." I mean,
Yeah.
he put Pensacola on the map for skateboarding, you know.
Uh-huh.
But we all know money and politics.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's what it is. I used to always say long ago, it's like we going way back, like to the 80s or like mid 80s. I remember trying to go to the city council as a kid, like, hey, can we just build some stuff underneath that same exact spot? Like, you know, and I might as well have been an alien talking. They just looked at me like, you're crazy. But I knew, I was like, yep, thought I'd try. But I always said that'll only happen when, you know, somebody's rich parent, when their kid skates, then a park will happen. So
Yeah, and it happened.
yeah, and that's just the way it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's crazy. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's nothing you can do, you know.
But I have, yeah, we could go off on that and probably get in trouble, but who cares?
I don't
I'm
care.
just I'm just not into skate parks like that. They just soulless to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
especially if it's run by politics and money, you know, and it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
not built by the love and support of the skate community, you know.
yeah,
And not
yeah,
knowing the history of skateboarding in Pensacola, and knowing who you are and what you have done for skateboarding in Pensacola. You've done so much, you know. I mean,
yeah,
you got a vert ramp at YMCA, you know, first pro out of Pensacola, you know. I
yeah,
mean, you know, there's people
right,
that fall behind you like Pete Kelly, and
yeah.
names go on, you know.
And that's all that matters. We know each other, so
Yeah,
we
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 know
know
who
we
we know who's that park's named
yeah,
after.
yeah, yeah. They they can get their yeah, yeah. And that's the beauty. In our day, we would have gone and spray painted or make our own. We put our own name and park there, and then get in trouble. And I
Exactly.
bet that would probably happen now. Like, how dare you? It's just so sterilized. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
I remember they built a little skate park here in Savannah, and it's just not my thing. But they put it up, and then some people spray painted on the, you know, and everybody's just mad. The community's mad. They can't believe they're ruined. I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a park up here in Oceanside, a beautiful bowl park. I mean, if you ever come back out here, I'll take you up there. I mean, and
yeah,
let you skate. It's a beautiful bowl park. And the guy there kept, you know, there's a skater who passed away up there, and he's been fighting to change the name to Prince Park,
yeah,
named after the kid that passed away that was a skater. And
yeah,
he fought the city and fought the city and fought the city for so long, and then finally the city's like, you know what? It's called Prince Park.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
rad, you know what I mean, to
yeah.
see that, you know,
Right, right, right.
you know,
Yeah,
I mean, as long as if you're gonna name my opinion, if you name a skate park has to have a meaning to it. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
has to be something
Right.
special, you know, like a
Yeah.
Scott, you know, call it the Scott Stanton Park or the Stanton Park, you know, or something.
Yeah. Right. And I guess that's the thing. Beauty, we can name it whatever we want. The other people can name it what they want. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is. And yeah, that the guy John's worked hard at whatever he's done and cool for him. But yeah, it's not my thing.
Yeah. That's why I stepped out. I was like, I'm done. I'm not even
Yeah.
trying anymore.
Yeah. It's just not my thing. It's like I've had a few opportunities where people are telling me for Pensacola, this is going to open up and it's going to be this huge grand opening. And the more they talk, the more I'm like, you're trying to sell me on this and you're just making me get farther and farther away from it. It's like, just stop talking. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like you just want to be like, okay, is there going to be something to skate and some skateboards? That's all you need to tell me. Yeah.
Exactly. You know.
But it's
So
like,
so do you miss the skating? Do you ever dream about the times? Like, do you ever like thought to yourself like, you know what if I still became a pro skater? What would my life still be like? Would I still be doing what I'm doing now, or something different?
yeah, I actually have. There's this dream that I think people have, and it's like you have to go back to high school because you like didn't take one class or this or that, and like it's just a miserable dream. It's like having to go backwards to some shitty world. And so I've had that dream a good bit in my life, but then this wasn't too long ago. I actually had this dream of like, okay, you have to go back to high school, back to being a pro skateboarder and touring, or a musician and touring. And I was like, I'll take high school. So I guess what that says is, no, I'm done. But I just don't look back on look back sort of. It's like, no, I'm done with that. Yeah.
And you're still skating, right?
Yeah. I still skate, and that's it. Like, but mostly just by myself. And I went to the park the other day. It's like I said, it's just not my deal. I thought about it. It's frustrating because if there's just people there and they don't get skateboarding, I mean, you know this a lot more than me because you go to more parks and this, but it's probably not like that out in California. People will probably understand a little more, but it's like you got people sitting on the coping or on the ledges, and
Oh yeah.
just parents, and I'm just like, I don't even have the energy to like complain of like, oh, you can't be sitting there. But I did tell somebody one time, I was like, man, that's like if there was a baseball game going on and in the middle, I just walked out there and sat on the base. It's like you can't do that. Yeah.
Like, no, you can't do it. No, it's like that here too. I mean, here's worse. I mean, it's not. I'm gonna say it's worse, but I mean, here you got parents bringing their kids and just dropping them off on scooters, and the kids don't have like skateboard. Don't know the skateboard rules. You know, you move out of people's way. On if you're scootering, you got to scoot fast. You know what I mean? Like it's like dropping in. You know what I mean? Like dropping in on a wave. Someone's dropping on a wave. You got to move out of the way. Or it's like any skate parks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess that's it. It's like, man, I don't have time for it. I don't, having to dodge all this. So I just the last time I went to the park, I was like, well, when I was pulling in, there was a ditch. I'm going to go skate that ditch. So I go about 50 yards and there's a ditch there. So I was just like, I'm going to skate the ditch. And it was just much better experience. Yeah.
That's right. So, do you ever skate vert again?
I'd love to, but we don't. It just seems like everywhere I live, there's never vert. So I just kind of gave up last couple of years. And so no, I really haven't skated vert in a while. Yeah. But that's about really ditches, curves, street stuff, and then vert. I'm like, I can't even come close to skating a mini ramp or anything. Like, I'm kind of either street stuff or vert. Yeah.
Street or vert. Well, if you come out here, man, I'll take you out to the vert ramps. I'd love to teach you big old fat lean there.
I'd love to. Yes.
Because I know you still got it in you. I know you still think, man, I know I can do those judos really fat.
Yeah, it does seem there. Yeah, the few times that I have skated for it, I was like, wow, it's like I know exactly what to do, and then I realize what I'm doing, and then I almost freak out. It's like, just chill out, don't don't overthink it. Yeah.
Do you skate bowls too, or what?
Yeah, well, I have because of I certainly didn't grow up doing that, but the with the parks all around, I usually skate the bowls before the ramp.
Mm-hmm.
They're just all so perfect. Yeah.
Right?
So
I mean,
yeah.
think about it. That's crazy, because we skate pools, and now we got like perfect bowls. They're like, wow, they're beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, we know the pools I grew up skating were like basically just square vertical walls. So
Yeah, definitely. And then before we take off, I got two more questions.
yeah.
Where can people purchase your artwork at?
Well, that's another thing. I don't really have anything where I don't have like a store or online. I do these, and this is what it's totally connected to. Like, I just kind of pop up places and then take my paintings out of my car and set them up, and it's completely the same of like showing up to a skates like a curb and we just start
Mm-hmm.
skating. So that's kind of what I do. So if I know I'm going to do that, I'll put it on my Instagram or my Facebook. Like, here's where I'll be,
Okay.
and it's worked out real good. I mean, there's some kind of following on there, then the word gets out, and I have people that'll drive to it. But
All
so
right.
that's it. Yeah.
And then where do you have an Instagram or website they can go and see where your next pop up is going to be?
Yeah, just keeping an eye out on it. But so the Instagram is Panhandle Slim. So, of course, from the Florida Panhandle, and Slim.
That was your nickname, right?
Yeah. And then my Facebook is Scott Stanton. Yeah.
There you go. All right, cool. Yeah, maybe I can get you out here and do a pop up. At one of these little events, or maybe one of my shows. Just do a pop up at one of my shows.
Well, yeah, my son Johnny really wants to come out again. We went a couple years ago, and I did a few. I did one in LA, and then I did one down in San Diego. A guy named the old team captain of Gull Wing. He has a tattoo shop. I did it at his place, and it was really cool. Yeah, and
That's right.
yeah, and Ricky I was supposed to meet up with him, but we didn't. But it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because didn't you meet up with DJ? Not DJ. Keith Phillips.
Yes, Keith came. Yeah.
That's right. Because I remember Keith telling me that you're in town, and I think I had to do my show, and I couldn't come meet up with you guys. I remember that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Wow. Well, now we can get connected, and hey, anytime you come to San Diego, we will do a pop up shop anywhere you want to go.
That would be awesome, man. Thanks so much. I would love it.
We want to do a skate shop. We can do a skate shop anywhere.
Man, I love it. Yeah, San Diego, man. That was my home away from home, Pensacola. Like, I spent a lot of time there with Zorlak and skateboarding. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of sitting around at a warehouse. Yeah.
San Diego, to me, what's crazy is there's a lot of Pensacolans that live in San Diego. A lot of people, and they're all skaters. Like Chris Coogan, I see him all the time. That's another guy I forgot to mention that came out of Pensacola too. I mean, he's still killing it. But there's a lot of Pensacola skaters and surfers that live out here that I meet. I'm like, whoa, you're from Pensacola? Oh, that's crazy. I thought it was only one.
Yeah. No doubt. That's great. Yeah.
One last thing before we take off. Anything you want to say to the upcoming skaters, musicians, artists? Anything you want to say to them?
Man, I just say, just do what you do. Like, follow your heart and do it for you. And you never know where it's going to lead to. I can't imagine the noise now of like the pressure of there's so much business money in this in this extreme the extreme world they call it, I guess. I don't even know what it is now, but it's just like, man, just be you. But I don't think I have to tell skateboarders that. I don't think it's changed that much for real skateboarders. That
It changed a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. Yeah, there's so many pipe dreams and big business, and I'll tell you one big thing is somebody from Pensacola called me, and this guy I knew from back in the day, and his dad's big business, but he's business, and he called me something about skateboarding and asked me about some kind of sponsorship thing. But he had these like business statistics. He's like, um, used they sell more skateboards now than footballs. And I was like, man, I just wanted to hang up. Like, man, stop talking to me. Oh, this is a business call. Yeah. So, yeah. Like, oh, okay. So you're wanting to get on board on something if it means we can make money. Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly, right.
yeah. So that's it.
Well, definitely. Well, definitely. That sounds really good, Scott. And
Also too, I just watched the Glennie Friedman interview on the Nine Club.
uh-huh.
That dude basically says everything I'd like to say. That was good. Yeah. So
That was good.
yeah, and he's a photographer, and been following him for a while. But yes, he basically articulates everything that I would like to say. So just go watch his interview, and then that would be my interview.
That was your interview. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, all right, Scott. Hey, man, it's always good talking to you and catching up on memories, man. And me personally, and I know a lot of the listeners too who are from Pensacola that, or even people that know who you are. Want to say thank you for what you have done for skateboarding and for what you have done for the Pensacola skateboard scene for a long time.
Man, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And definitely. Yeah. Well, all right, buddy. Well, hey, look, I'll see you soon. Hopefully,
okay.
Yep. We'll come out to San Diego and we'll have a good time. We'll go skate. I'll take you out to the vert ramps and see some good old lean airs again.
Awesome. Okay. See you soon.
All right, Scott. Talk to you soon. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.